So this is a quick run through of the Functions Template Manager, which is our integration between Node-RED and Visual Studio Code. The problem I have is when I'm building complex dashboards, having the ability to use Visual Studio Code speeds up my development. Probably best place to start is to give you an example. So this is a project I'm working on at the moment. It's a finance project. It takes some incoming prices, does some maths calculations, some fintech maths calculations, and some of these equations. So this is how my application starts up, and these are all the equations I use. Some of the equations are fairly complicated. This particular equation, the guy's got a Nobel Prize for writing that. And the problem I have, so I'll go in and look at one of these functions here, and have a little read of it, and it tells me that I might need to look at the Rogers and Satchels. So I have to come out, go into the Rogers and Satchels, look at that, remember what it is, go back here, and it's all very complicated. I really want to be able to open them side by side so I can compare things. I can do this with two Node-RED tabs, but it's a little bit kludgy. And the problem gets a little bit worse when I use Dashboard 2. This is an amazing tool. This is basically React on steroids, where each of these is a server component and a client component, and they talk to each other using WebSockets. Absolute genius. But the problem I have is some of my client components are a bit complicated. So most of them are quite simple, but some of them are, and this one's still not finished, is quite complicated, and I'm almost hitting 1,000 lines of code, and it's quite difficult to edit it in here, and I miss a few features of Visual Studio Code. So I need something to get the code out of here into Visual Studio Code. I can play around with it there and then get it back. So that's what this project does, and I'll basically walk you through how we use it. So I just bring that down. So the first thing to note is when we run Node Red, I run it in a really obscure way, where I run it in different directories with different port numbers, so I can run several versions at a time. But the same goes if you're just using the standard Node-RED. You will get a message telling you where your flow files are, and another message telling you where your server is running at. And what we need to do is start our function up, Functions Templates Watch, with our flow files from here and our server at here. And what this will do is it will go and open up our flows JSON package, extract everything, put it in a source directory, watch that directory, and if we make changes in that directory, it pushes it back to the flows JSON, and if we make changes in the flows JSON, it pushes it into that directory. And I'm just firing it off with the clean method so that it starts from scratch using the flows JSON as its terms of reference. So here we have the project at the moment. Basically it's almost all big flows JSON. I'll then fire this script off, and what it's done is it extracted 76 functions or templates out and dropped them in this source directory. So all the things that were inside of here, if they're functions, they come out, and if they're UI templates, they also come out. And if we just open up our source directory, you've got manifest, that just manages the communication, so don't change that. But if we go in here and start up and pick the first function, there we go, and just go here, and we're data path. So that's that one up there. So let's go in here and change something. Let's just put a comment in, Control save, and you'll see here your flows have been updated. It's important to remember this toast might disappear, does disappear quite quickly, and you've got this little marker here telling you that there's been updated. So if you make changes here and try and deploy, you can overwrite. So always look out for this little triangle, review the changes, pull them in, have a look at the data path. There's our temp. Go in here, edit it, hit done, hit deploy, and as if by magic, when we come back here, it's gone. So that's the basics of how you use it. There's one additional function I added today, so I'll just clear that, is we can go in, rather than clean, we can go in with wrap. Okay, now what wrap does is it will wrap this function. Let me just build that. And then it will wrap your Node-RED function in an export default, so that you can then use a normal testing system like VI test to test your complex functions. So that's what the wrap does. I'll just do that and just go back to the old clean version, and then we should go back here, back in the clean version. So those are the difference between the two. It's normally one or the other. Be careful if you're putting your unit tests next to your functions, because the clean will completely delete and rewrite the source folder. So if you're doing that, it's best to put it in a folder that's beside this called test. And then what we'll do is we'll just quickly go in and we'll have a look at the prices chart. Again, this is a pretty big, horrible view component, but now I'm inside Visual Studio Code and I've got my good old friend Copilot help me out, do lots of assistance, and I can navigate around a lot easier. And again, I'll just show that in here. If we just go down here, so prices chart, out it comes, and what we'll do is we'll just adjust that with an exclamation mark. So we will put in, there we go, exclamation mark. This is a complex thing about chart.js and the data property of view not working very well together. But I'll just put a little marker in there, hit save, whoops, hit save, Control S, so I'll save that, and come back here, we put our exclamation mark in, yes we did, and then we've missed the little piece of toast, review it, merge it, in it comes, and there we see it, and we just take it out from here, done, deploy, and it's disappeared from there. So that's the basics of how this works. What you'll need to do, clone it, install all the dependencies, run your Node-RED, remember where your flows file and your server is, and then you just run this function with those two commands in. You can, if you want, put clean on, so that you've got, the source is always the flows JSON. You've got nothing left over from last time. Wrap, if you want to do your unit testing outside, it will wrap everything in this function, and that's basically it. So that's a little overview of the Functions Template Manager. And while we're here, I'll just do a couple of little promos, a couple of little articles I've written. First one, probably most important one, is end of line for coding. Yeah, we're not going to be coding very soon, but we are, I think, going to be doing a lot of flow programming. So this is a discussion on why we should be doing flow programming, and you already know that because you use Node-RED. But basically, after a little bit of preamble, it's preparation for AI, because a lot of these nodes are going to be language models, MCP servers, or wrappers around a mental thing called LangChain. And there's a discussion of how we might use that. Unfortunately, there isn't a really good wrapper for LangChain in Node-RED, but there are some alternatives with Flow Program N8N and FlowWise. So that's a little article there. Another one wrote for a company I work for, how to mix Node-RED and Survey.js. Brilliant way to rapidly collect information from your customers. And then lastly, CodeMonkey. I wrote that a few years ago. If you've ever got a problem with a bad manager, it's normally because they're using management techniques from over 100 years ago. So this explains all of that and might help you out in the future. So here we are, Functions Template Manager. Hopefully it will be helpful to you.